what's up guys? Welcome back to Move Plus. I hope you're all keeping well out there. We're gonna start off with 1 minute of cardio of your choice. We've decided to go with a lateral step over. So on a low plate, it is kind of like a sideways skipping step up, okay? We're gonna do that for 1 minute. You guys can pick what you wanna do there. From there, the next 4 minutes are going to be 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off with 2 movements that are gonna alternate back and forth. So the first one, single dumbbell strict press. Okay, so we're holding either head of the dumbbell, pressing up above our head. We do that for 20 seconds, then rest for 10. Then we go into 20 seconds of mountain climbers. So going back and forth. Again, 20 on, 10 off. And we do that for those remaining 4 minutes. Good to go, Em?
Yep.
All right, starting in 10. So lateral step overs is what we're gonna kick off with first for that first minute. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So important you go a nice low target with this one, guys. Don't do it on a gigantic box or anything like that, or a park bench, probably gonna be a little bit too excessive. So go for something small, something that we can just make the emphasis more the side to side rather than the up and down. And like we would for running, with skipping, any of those things, we're gonna stay nice and light, nice and bouncy on the balls of the feet. So you'll notice that as Em does this, she's kind of keeping her center of gravity like right in the middle of the plate. So it's actually just her legs that kind of sway side to side rather than her whole body driving off to either side of the plate there. So we'll do this for about 20 more seconds. And we're gonna move into that 4-minute section where we go 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, single dumbbell strict press and mountain climbers. Ten seconds, Em. 3, 2, 1, and going straight onto strict press, so 20 seconds on. Okay, so with this one, guys, it is all arms. You want to keep everything from the rib cage down locked in place. So even though it's not going to be moving, it's active, it's holding nice and tight. We're pushing straight up to a lockout overhead. And resting, so 10-second rest. We'll get ourselves set up for the mountain climbers next. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So with this one, guys, active shoulders, we're gonna hit a nice strong lockout. Body's gonna stay right in its place there, so no movement through there. Legs are gonna be running on the spot. Making sure we hit a nice, fully extended leg position out the back there. And resting, so switching back to the press again. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So important to note that head through position at the top there. What she's doing is getting her ears and her biceps to line up with one another, so that way the body's stacked in one straight line. You don't have to be excessive with that though. You don't want to see the entire head forward of those arms, really just the face, yeah? And resting. So back to mountain climbers. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So the leg movement underneath, guys, we're looking for that knee to come right up high, so sort of top of the stomach, even bottom of the chest there. Keeping the stance nice and narrow as you run the legs. And resting, so back to the press. So we've got 2 more minutes. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. Now, one of the common mistakes with a strict press, guys, is that people will lean back as they push up. I want you guys to keep your ribs locked down into your belly, keep your butt tight, try and keep your body nice and straight. If you feel your hips wanting to kind of drift forward, rein them back in again and keep them under control. And resting. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So as we're getting sort of to the tail end of this warm-up, guys, if you're feeling good and you feel like bumping the tempo up a little bit, go for it. If you still feel like you're at a good tempo, stay with that, that's fine. We just want to think about cranking the engine up a little bit before we get into that harder stuff later in the workout. And resting. All right, so 1 more cycle of each. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. Looking good, Em. Nice work. And resting. Three, 2, 1, and go for it. So last 20-second block here. So by now the body should be getting nice and warm, should be getting a bit of a sweat going, getting the lungs puffing a little bit. And time. All right, guys, so that is the warm-up. Have a little bit of recovery time, and then we get into the build section next. All right, guys, so now that we're warmed up, we're going to check out the build workout. So this one is a 9-minute alternating EMOM. Now, I mentioned there's a bit of an interesting format to this one, and what I mean by that is rather than us alternating minute for minute, it's going to be a 2-minute block with a 1-minute block. So what we'll see in the 2-minute block is an AMRAP of the following 3 movements. So we've got a sumo deadlift, so that's a wide stance pull. We do that for 1 rep. We then go to 2 hang power cleans, and then we go into 3 front squats. Okay, and that will be on repeat for those 2 minutes. The other minute, so the 3rd minute, which is just a single minute, we're gonna go into a 50-second front rack hold. So it's literally just holding the dumbbells there, bracing that core, holding for 50 seconds. That last 10 seconds, you can put them down and have a bit of a chill. So that obviously is 3 minutes in total per round, and we're gonna do 3 cycles of that, which gives us our 9 minutes. You good to go?
Yep.
All right. So 10 seconds, we're going to start off with that 2-minute block of the deadlift, hang power clean, front squat combo. And go for it. So 1 wide stance, then we're going to switch into narrow, hang power clean, and then 3 front squats, and that's just on repeat for these 2 minutes. Okay, so the switching of the stance, that's going to be a personal preference. Emily finds it more comfortable to go from that narrow stance. If you find that you can do all of it from a sumo stance, go for it, but you'll probably find at least the front squat anyways will need to come into a normal stance. So play around with it, see what feels good for you. As long as we're keeping good mechanics along the way, good control of that movement, it's up to you how you want to approach it. So with the sumo deadlift, guys, that stance should be outside of shoulder width. And as I come into the bottom of this, 2 real things I'm going to concentrate on, and that is my back staying nice and straight and my knees kind of pushing out. So we'll see on the next round when she goes into that pull that her knees are going to kind of stack right over the top of her ankles and get a nice vertical shin position. So we can see there she hits that vertical shin, comes up, and then she switches stance. Now, hang power clean deliberately has a short run up. That's where the hang part of the name comes in. You have to be above knee height when you start that pull. Okay, and then into the front squat. We've got nice open knees. Check in that your feet are nice and flat on the ground as well. You don't want those heels popping up along the way. So we've got about 30 more seconds of this first 2-minute block. Ten seconds. Three, 2, 1, and pulling up into the front rack hold now. So this is the single minute, the alternating minute. Okay, we're in a front rack hold, so this one doesn't look like it's going to be difficult, but it will get really challenging, especially for those shoulders, creating that rack position. The big thing here is your trunk, right? So abs, glutes, hips, everything around there has got to lock in place to stop us from kind of melting down into a worse position. So you can see already that fatigue is accumulating on the shoulders. So little strategic breaks along the way are fine. We want to try and fill up that 50 seconds as much as possible. So you'll see the front ends of those dumbbells are kind of pointing upwards. She's resting the back head on the actual shoulder itself. Okay, 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1, and bring it down. All right, so that's 1 cycle down. We've got 2 more full cycles of that. So we're going to go back into the 2-minute block. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So this is the sumo deadlift, hang power clean, front squat combo for the next 2 minutes. Nice work, Em. So you'll notice when she gets to the hang power clean, she makes a really strong effort to stand up each rep, right? She's making sure that she hits that last point. Hang power cleans is one of those movements where it's very easy to kind of just drop the dumbbells off early and kind of miss the stand up. So she's really making a point of finishing that movement off. So we can see just some subtle little adjustments of the stance along the way. Em's finding the most comfortable and stable pattern for herself. See that nice stand up we talked about there. Okay, and then going into front squat. So with the torso on the front squat, guys, there's always going to be a little bit of lean forward, but it's a nice extended spinal position. So it's a hinge from the hips just slightly. What she's trying to do though is work into as upright a position as her hips will allow. And that way that weight is going to be stacked nicely on top. It's not going to feel like it's dragging her down to the front. So 40 more seconds on this part. So there's the sumo, switch stance into the hang power clean, and then tiny little switch of the stance again into the squat. So a little bit of coordination involved with this workout as well, which is good. Okay, we've got about 10 more seconds. So a little strategic break here before we go into that front rack hold for the 50 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So if we look at Em's arm position, it's fairly kind of wound in, nice neutral position. She's not letting it flare out or press back over the shoulders. She's not resting the handles on there. She's making that rack position work. She's deliberately making a challenging position for herself. Stance is narrow, so we can kind of just lock everything in under those hips. Okay, 20 more seconds. So as the fatigue starts to creep in, guys, keep checking in that we're not kind of sitting behind our hips and slouching back into it. You want to stay nice and stacked. 5 seconds. And resting. All right, so that's 2 cycles down. We've got 1 to go. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So we're back on that 3 movement cycle. Sumo first, 2 hang power cleans, and then into the 3 front squats. So we can see that even though it's just the 1 deadlift off the ground, guys, she's not giving it any less respect. She's making sure she's keeping that back really strong. Head and the chest is kind of elevated up even at the bottom of it. That way she's not sort of getting sucked into going like head down, chest down, and getting into poor position at the bottom of that pull. It's very much hamstring and glute driven, and it'll be very much the same with this hang power clean, that hinging pattern. We really want to get that rear chain of muscles to work hard. When we hit the front squat, it's going to be hamstrings and glutes, but you're going to find the quads are going to play a much bigger role with that one. Okay, 1 more minute on this sequence. Doing good, Em. So when she circles back around to the next set of the hang power cleans, guys, watch her shoulders, watch what happens there. It's a really big elevation, big shrug, and that's going to really pop those dumbbells up nicely. Okay, she's not just reverse curling them or hammer curling them. She's actually using that upper body, that upper shoulder section there to really get some height on them. So we'll see it again, big shrug, quick turnover. So it's a real flick over to get into that next position. Okay, 10 seconds. Three, 2, 1, and go for it. So last section of the build workout, guys. We're going to do this hold for 50 seconds. So bracing up, try to visualize your belly button kind of pulling to your spine, tensing your butt really hard, drilling those feet into the ground. And then we're constantly kind of pushing up against those dumbbells, make sure the front ends point upwards. If you find them start to kind of turn in or come down a little bit, you want to try and open them up and get them in that nice neutral position. So 20 more seconds. Ten seconds. And done. All right, so that is the build section done, guys. Have a little bit of recovery time, get some water in, and we've got a finisher coming up next. Okay, guys, so last thing we're gonna go through is the finisher. So we're looking at some direct ab work. This one is gonna be 6 minutes, and it's an alternating EMOM. So minute one, what we're gonna do is slow bicycle crunches. So setting up in a hollow, and just very, very slowly going back and forth, opposite elbow to knee. The second minute, what we're gonna do is go 30 seconds on right and then 30 seconds on left of a side plank. So that is the short version. If you're wanting to bump up to a full version, you can go to straight leg, but that's up to you. You go with whatever you can do. My suggestion would be pick the one that's gonna allow you to cover the most time within the minute. So don't go the full one if it feels like it's gonna break all of a sudden, okay? You good to go, Em?
Yep.
All right, so 10 seconds. We're going for 6 minutes on this one, so it'll be 3 cycles through each of these. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. Now, this will feel like a long time because we're obviously going slow. It's going to be a lot of lactic acid buildup, so be strategic about it. You might get in your head that you work for 20 seconds, rest for 10. Do that as the pattern, or maybe you work for 45 seconds, rest for 15. It's going to be abs on abs, so know that there probably is likely to be a little bit of resting in there along the way. We just want to try and keep it minimal if we can. So as far as the speed goes, guys, we're looking at sort of about a 3 to 5 second rep each time, whereas normally it would be almost a rep per second. So deliberately really controlling back and forth through this. Main things we want to see is the shoulders up off the ground and the leg fully extended out when you reach that straight leg. All right, so we're going to move to our second minute. We're going to go into our plank. 3, 2, 1, and popping up. Okay, so that's the full plank, the full side plank there. Just getting a nice straight line through the body, keeping the hips nice and level with the shoulders as well. And we'll do 30 seconds on this side and 30 seconds on the other. Okay, so we're at about 25, so it might be good to switch it around in a sec. And go for it. So setting up on that other side. Now, one of the things that Em's doing really well is she's got a nice active shoulder, right? She's not slouching her body into that shoulder. She's actually pressing the ground away, keeping everything active. So although this is primarily midline core sort of stuff, we're getting the whole body working for us. Okay, 5 seconds. So getting ourselves ready for that slow bicycle again, and go for it. So second cycle through. So depending on your flexibility, guys, you might be able to get the actual elbow to touch the knee. Doesn't necessarily matter too much if you do or you don't, but that's kind of the target we're moving towards. Okay, if there's a couple inches in between there, that's totally fine. We just want to make sure that we're trying to close that gap up and really go for that nice hard crunch across the body. And one of the things you'll want to watch out for with this is if your shoulders suddenly start to hit the ground and you also start to feel your low back start to peel off the ground into like a bit of an arch, feels really, really awkward. Drop down, take a rest, and then start moving through it again once you've recovered. It's always really important that low back is pinned flat to the floor. All right, so we might look at that scaled version of the plank next. So this is going to be a short knee version. And go for it. So she's got the feet kind of tucked in behind her, but basically from the knees up, everything looks identical. So it's still open hips. We're still nice and flat and square through the body. Head's neutral, shoulders active. Okay, that's 25. 3, 2, 1, and switching to the other side. So where you're going to find you really feel this, guys, is that underside. So M's right, kind of just under her rib cage there, that oblique's going to be working real hard. Ten more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So we're going to move into the final cycle of this. So back onto those bicycle crunches again. So as those abs start to tire, guys, that lactic acid is going to really start to pull in there. Just keep checking that we're doing that technique right. Is that leg extending right out to a full lockout? Is the toe pointed? Am I closing that gap between the elbow and the knee as much as possible? Are my shoulders off the ground? Just keep checking that in along the way. Doing good, Em, almost there. Okay, 10 seconds. So final round of the side plank. Going in 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So you can aim to get those shoulders nice and square. You can see Em's right shoulder, she's kind of drawn that back so it stacks right on top of the left one. We don't want to feel like everything's kind of rolling and collapsing into the front there. Okay, that's 25. We'll switch it out. Last 15 seconds. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, and done. Well done, Em. All right, guys, that is the finish. You're done. Have a little bit of recovery time, get some water in, and we're gonna have a look at some stretching to finish off. All right, so guys, finishing off, we're just gonna do a little bit of mobility just to get the body loosened up after all that hard work. The first drill we're gonna do for 1 minute, which is a straddle and sweep. So with this one, we are going wide stance, okay, and just going from foot to foot. Now, how wide the stance is and how far you can lean forward is gonna depend on your current mobility level and how you're feeling after the workout, but try to get it as wide as you can, try and get as low to the ground as possible. And you might find that it'll open up over the space of that minute. So just going side to side. Now, Em's got a full lockout at the legs. You might find that you might need to have a little bit of softness at the knees. That's okay, but this is the ultimate goal of where we're gonna try and get to, and that is hands in full contact with the ground from right to left with the legs locked out. You'll find that the back will have a little bit of curvature over the top to get down to that position. That's okay. Over time, what we want to find is that we can hinge further and further with a flat back, so that curve becomes less predominant as we get more flexible. So we'll go 15 more seconds. Three, 2, 1, and done. So that's our first drill. Second one we're going to do is a Samson stretch, but we're actually going to go a cross-body arm stretch rather than an overhead. So we're going to go to a lunge position, okay, and we're crossing that arm across there. So we'll go 45 seconds on this one. So important to note, she's resting on her right knee, which means it's her right arm that it's going to swing across, okay? And she's going to use the left one to kind of curl up underneath that arm, draw it into the body. So we're going to find a few different stretches with this one. One will be kind of thigh up into hip, so quad muscle into hip flexor. Then we've also got kind of rear shoulder, rear sort of around the back here down to the lat as well. We're going to make sure we get that nice and opened up. And what you can do, as Em's doing there, is kind of tension on, tension off. She's kind of rocking in and out of it, loosen it off for a moment, and then push a little bit deeper. Okay, and we'll switch sides. So good idea, guys, if you happen to be doing this on some fairly unforgiving floor, so floorboards, tiles, concrete, a little bit of cushioning under the knee goes a very long way. It'll allow you to sit in this stretch a little bit more comfortably, but also for a few more rounds as well. You don't want to feel like that's the limiting factor. You want to feel like you can kind of sink into this stretch and really relax the body into it. So we'll go 15 more seconds. Three, 2, 1, and done. Alrighty, guys. So if you have the time to run through 3 or 4 rounds of that, get that body nice and loose. Otherwise, we will catch you next time. That was your Move Plus workout.